starting with distance measurement techniques using tapes and electronic distance measurement devices. Okay, so as we have discussed up till now, most importantly, for measurement of horizontal distances between 2 points, we can use either tapes or we can use electronic distance measurement devices. Okay, so these, as we go forward, we will be discussing in detail, but I will just give you a brief introduction about distance measurement also. Means in surveying, what is most important is that we need the horizontal distance between 2 points. Okay, and different taping methods may be used. Okay, because what happens is generally it is not necessary that the terrain which we are getting is a flat terrain, and in flat terrain it is easy for short scale distances. Means if distances are not very large, then to reasonable accuracy we can use taping methods. Okay, and from that we can calculate the distances. But apart from these also, there are several methods for rough estimation, like pacing can be done. Pacing is just by walking. If we know the pace length, if we know that the length of each pace that a particular person is moving, okay, if it is known to us, then just for rough estimate of the entire field area or for getting the circumference, we can just estimate that distance with the help of pacing also. Odometer wheels are being used. This we will discuss as we move forward with this lecture. But if we need very high accuracy, and if the distances are to be measured to large scale with very good accuracy, then electronic distance measurement devices are used. And the best part of that is that it directly gives us the horizontal distance between those 2 points, the first station point where we are situated and the final station point between which we need the distance. Okay, whether it is a sloping ground or anything, it can directly give us the horizontal distance between those 2 points, and it is displayed on the electronic machine. Okay, since the mechanism of this we will discuss in detail. Okay, what is the mechanism that it serves, and errors involved, why they are very less in case of electronic distance measurement devices, and what is the principle. Okay, so these things as we go forward we will be discussing in detail. Okay, so first thing first, we will be discussing why distance measurement is important. Okay, since as we know, most of the survey works, when you will get to know, when you will be part of it, distance measurement is the only requirement in most of the survey projects. Means you just need to locate the end boundaries, get the distances between various points. You can use any station as a control point, and with respect to that you can get all the other points. You can locate all the end points or the important points where any construction activity has to be done. If you want to locate, suppose a tree you want to locate, with respect to that point you can easily locate a tree just by measuring the distances using taping method. Okay, so some of the survey works, only surveying means only measurement of horizontal distances between 2 points is sufficient to complete the survey of that particular site. Okay, but while conducting this survey we need to account for means many things. Okay, it's not just you have taken the survey, you have completed the survey, you have got the distances and you are off the field. No, you need to take good track of it. You need to locate those readings in your field book. Okay, so that when you go off the field you have track of which parts were located on the ground, how the distances were measured, and if you need to give track of those readings, or if verification is required at any point of time, if any error occurs, then you can account for them. And most of the surveys many errors occur. Okay, suppose in tape length, as we will be discussing when we will be going forward with this lecture, what happens is when you are holding tapes at two ends of a field, it's not necessary that the tape is horizontal. If sufficient tension force has not been applied at both the ends, then what generally happens is that the tape that is held is not horizontal, and once the tape is not horizontal, then it will be displaying the erroneous length. Okay, that length will not be correct, because if 50-meter tape is being used and it has been taped at 2 points, we consider this distance as 50 meter. But what happens is, if the tape is sagging, if the tape is not in full tension or fully stretched, then what will happen is this distance will not be equal to 50 meter, but it will be lesser. Okay, because this distance will now be 50 meter. So it may give us wrong lengths, and at times what may happen, we are considering that this tape is 50 meter, but it may be 49.9 meter. Okay, at times, because maybe it has been used long time ago, it has been used at so many survey sites, maybe some due to effect of temperature or wind or some kinking of the tape, it may happen that the tape now is having wrong length. Okay, and now 49.9 meter is the actual length of the tape, and you are every time considering it as 50 meter. At one time it will only display an error of 0.1 meter, but if long distance is being surveyed with the help of that tape, what will happen is that error will be additive, and after complete survey has been done, it will account for significant amount of error. Okay, so we need to keep track of these readings, and these are basically systematic errors due to errors in the instrumentation in the system, that is the tape here. So these errors can be rectified. Once we verify that yes, the length of the tape is wrong, we can apply suitable correction factor to it, because we know that with each measurement how much error we have conducted, and that error can be distributed, can be calculated for all the readings, how many times we have taken the readings. We can get track of how many times we have taken the readings, and we can apply that correction factor there. Okay, so these all things we need to take into account while we are conducting the survey. Measuring distance is one of the most important part of the survey. Okay, distance measurement as well as angular measurement. Angular measurement we will be discussing in the next lecture in detail. In this lecture we will be completely focusing on the instrumentations that are being used for measurement of distances. What are the errors that may occur in measurement of distances at times using those instruments, and how we can account for those errors, because it is very important in actual, because theoretical concept and implementing those concepts in the field, when you are implementing those concepts in the field, then small errors account for it. Okay, and if you don't cover for that accuracy, and if you are lenient at that point of time, then sometimes what happens is you are even not able to estimate where the error occurred. Okay, and that error may at times be huge. Okay, it may be just due to a blunder also. Suppose at time you should have recorded this reading as 20 meter, and you recorded accidentally in your field book as 120 meter. Obviously if it is a small ground, then you will get an idea that you have that an error has occurred. But if you are doing survey for 20 kilometer or 50 kilometer area, then it may get difficult for you to estimate where the error has occurred. Okay, so we have to we will see how many crew members are required, how the data verification is done, how the errors are to be eliminated, and these all things. One more thing that goes very important is, while conducting survey you also need to understand that at particular time which type of equipment is to be used for distance measurement. Okay, for distance measurement different devices can be used. In the next slide I will tell you, means not only these two techniques, but there are 7 to 8 techniques that are basically used for measurement of distance. Some techniques have even gone obsolete, but still they are being used because of their certain advantages, or maybe if hurriedly some work has to be done. Okay, but we have to very well identify that yes, the results of this survey will have how much impact. Okay, at times you just need rough estimates to get an area, that yes, you can, if you can get the end coordinates or the relative difference in elevation between the points, you don't require them to very high accuracy if leveling of ground is not to be done. Okay, suppose you are just finding the reduced level of two different points just to get estimate how much difference in elevation is there. Okay, and if leveling is not required there, then if very high accuracy is not required, then you can use these methods that may have lesser accuracy. Suppose at right now since we are talking leveling, we will be discussing up next. Right now as we are talking about horizontal distances, suppose if higher accuracy is not required, then you can use these taping methods. Even you can use chaining method. Gunter's chain, as I have told you, discussed also, Gunter's chain was also used. Okay, so it has also now gone obsolete, but what happened, there was one chain was there that was of 66 feet length, and it has got 100 links. So the length of each link was 0.66 feet, and based on that chain only we can identify how much distance we are traversing. Okay, the advantage was, okay, total length we can get with the help of chain, and if we need to get some smaller distance also, then we can get how many links we have covered, how many full chains we have covered. If we have traversed that full chain 3 times, suppose, so 66 feet is the length of whole chain. 66 into 3, that will be 192 feet. And then suppose we have covered 30 links more. Okay, if we have covered 30 links more, length of each link is 0.66 feet. So 30 into 0.66 will have to be added to this reading to get the total distance that has been covered. Okay, so there were many techniques that were used, but we need to identify if the survey is being done on large scale, and if these results will have impact on the readings, then we will have to use those methods which have got very high accuracy. and you also have to decide that how much verification of data is required, whether the data has to be verified or not. Okay, if the results will have impact, then you should always use electronic distance measurement devices, or even tachyometry techniques are used in hilly regions for that purpose. Okay, which we will be discussing up next. Tachyometry is also a technique in itself that is used for measurement of distances, and once we get those readings, so we can use that, we can plot that, and we can take note of that. Okay, that comes as a part of layout survey. Okay, so it is simple on distance measurement. Now we will be going through the equipments and the devices that we generally use for measurement of distance. Okay, so I have listed few 7 to 8 methods that have been used. First one is pacing. We will study as we go forward. We will be discussing all these methods in detail. So pacing, as you all know, pacing is just to get the rough estimate of the distance. If we know the average pace length, the person who is going to pace the entire field, if he knows his average pace length, okay, then based on that, if average pace length is known and the total distance, total distance, the number of paces that he takes. Okay, suppose if he takes 150 steps to cover the whole ground, and his length of each pace is suppose 50 centimeter, or you can say it is 1 meter. Okay, if we say that length of each pace of a particular person is 1 meter and he has taken 150 paces, so total distance that he has covered is 150 meter into 1. But this is not exactly going to be the correct reading, because obviously when the pace has been taken by a person, he won't be taking each pace equally, how hard he tries. Okay, and how we determine the average pace length, there is also a technique going forward into this. Okay, you can't just measure one pace length when he is standing. Okay, because what happens if you do it like this, then it won't be the same pace length that he generally takes. Okay, so there is a method that I will discuss when we will be going through pacing, and it generally gives us a bit of accuracy of around 1/50 to 1/100. Means in every 50 meter there may be an error of 1 meter if the survey is being conducted by pacing, that we generally consider. Okay, but it can be just used to get rough estimate if the survey has to be done on a particular site. So just to get rough estimate of the area or to verify the results, this pacing method can be used. Okay, second one is odometer wheel. Okay, what happens in this, it is a kind of wheel. Okay, what happens if we know the circumference of that wheel, okay, that we can easily know just by knowing the diameter or the radius of wheel. We can calculate the circumference 2 pi r. If we know the circumference of that wheel and we get to know total number of revolutions that have been taken by that wheel. Okay, suppose to cover that particular ground for which we need to conduct the survey, that wheel has taken total number of revolutions as 200. Okay, and circumference of each wheel, okay, circumference of wheel was 2 meters suppose. Okay, if circumference of a wheel is 2 meters, that we can easily calculate knowing the diameter or radius of the wheel, and total number of revolutions that wheel does is suppose how many, 200 suppose for any data. Then what will be the total distance? It will just be total number of revolutions multiplied by circumference, because in every one complete circumference, one revolution is completed. As soon as it completes 200 revolutions, it means 200 into circumference will be the total distance traveled by that odometer wheel. Okay, so we can easily predict the distance, and that wheel generally takes count of total number of revolutions in itself. Okay, it has been supplied with that technology to take count of total number of readings, and at times it gives us the total length also. Okay, total length that has been traversed. Third one is the taping method. Taping, as we all know, as we have all discussed up till now, just by using steel, inbar, or you can say cloth or fabric tape, we can just measure the distances. Tapes generally come in different measurements. Okay, so we should know which measurement tape we are using, what is the least count of that tape which we are using, and we can easily measure the distance between those two points. Okay, so this we will be discussing these all things in detail once we move forward. Next one is electronic distance measurement devices. It is again the same as I have told you. In electronic distance measurement devices, they give us the horizontal distance between 2 points. Okay, the 2 points for which we need to calculate the distance, it directly displays the horizontal distance, and the concept that it uses, it means it sends a signal, it transmits a signal in the form of electromagnetic waves, okay, and we know the wavelength of that particular wave, the wave that is traveling, that has been transmitted with the EDM devices, we know the wavelength of that wave, okay. If the wavelength is known to us, so what happens is, from here the wave has been sent, reflector is installed at the other end, at the other station on that tripod. Through that reflector, that wave is again transmitted and received by the electronic distance measurement device, okay. So what it generally measures is, it measures total number, based on the phase, change of phase, it measures the total number of wavelengths that have been taken. If total number of wavelengths is taken, either full or partial, it takes count of all, how many full wavelengths have been covered, and at last how many partial wavelengths have been covered. Based on that, it tries to calculate the horizontal distance between 2 points, okay. So we get the horizontal distance, and through this, the distance that we generally get is of very high accuracy. When we will be going on electronic distance measurement devices, I will show you with the help of figures that how these calculations are done. Next is the tachymetry, okay. So tachymetry is basically a technique in which what happens, I will tell you, this technique is very much useful in hilly regions or at places where the other station is inaccessible. So what happens in this, the stadia interval, the telescope through which you look, the stadia interval is, two stadia hairs are there, okay, and one central crosshair is there. So when we look through those stadia hairs, the intercept, the staff that is placed at the point where we need to locate the distance, okay, the distance between those 2 points we need to locate, what happens is, if the staff is located there, it sends the, means when we look through it, the staff intercept is the top reading that we look at and the bottom reading we look at. The difference between those two readings is the staff intercept, and in case of tachymetry, what happens is that staff intercept is multiplied by 100, okay. What happens in this case, the stadia interval of the lens is fixed in such a way that the staff intercept that you look at, it when multiplied by 100 gives us the value of horizontal distance between those 2 points, okay. So that 100 is known as multiplication factor. Mostly it is kept as 100, okay, but at times it may be different, but this multiplication factor you will get with the tachymetry device that you are using, and you will be told what is the multiplication factor with this distance, okay. So you just need to measure the staff intercept and multiply it by that multiplication factor, and if there is any additive factor, then we add that also. Generally it is given of the form D is equal to Ks plus C, where K is the multiplication factor which we consider as 100, and S is the staff intercept, and that C which we need to add afterwards is a addition factor that is relatively very small, and in our case we generally consider that equal to 0, okay. Generally it is supplied with 0, okay. That multiplication factor also is given by focal length of the lens upon staff intercept, and since that staff intercept is fixed and that focal length of the lens is fixed, so that multiplication factor always remains same. Next comes the subtens bar method. It follows the same technique. In this, what happens is, at the other station a subtens bar is kept which is of length 2 meter. So in this case, what happens, the staff intercept that we were looking for in tachymetry technique, it is kind of similar, but in this, that intercept is fixed, okay. The staff intercept is fixed, it is 2 meters, okay. A 2 meter bar is taken, and we look at the top end and the bottom end of that bar, okay. So that distance staff intercept is fixed here. What happens, and we get to know the angle, the angular measurement using theodolite. When we look at two opposite ends of the subtens bar, so we get to know the angle between the both readings, top and bottom of that subtens bar. What is the angle enclosed? Since angle enclosed is known to us, and the vertical distance, or you can say the horizontal distance between two ends of the bar is known to us, then easily using the concept of trigonometry we can calculate the horizontal distance between those 2 points. This I will show you with the help of a line diagram or a figure, that how we can calculate the horizontal distance between 2 points using subtens bar. Okay, last one is the Gunter's tape, as we have already discussed. It is just a chain, okay, that I will show you with the help of figure, so that you can get better understanding that how 100 links are attached to that chain and what are the limitations of that chain, okay. Why it gets difficult to measure the distances using Gunter's tape, and why that measurements may not be accurate,